Someone sent us, actually somebody who's in the chat room. Thank you, Derek, for sending this to us. Last night, I opened this up at, I don't know, 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. And this is what I was faced with. It's a YouTube video, and it's Lex Meyers, who Lex and I actually have talked extensively, especially around Passover time, via email. Nice guy. And once again, I certainly do not want to assume that Mr. Myers is ill-intended in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that at all. I think that actually, I think quite the opposite. I think Lex has a heart for the Lord and is really trying to seek out truth. I do believe that about Lex. And actually, to show you kind of what Lex says, Lex was nice enough to send me a free copy of his book. It's called Immortal. And so he sent me a free copy of this book. And before we actually get into the clip, I want to read you what Lex says about salvation and Yeshua's work on the cross, because the clip that I have does not line up, in my opinion. It doesn't, I can't line the two up very well. But I take what he wrote in his book at face value. So I think that Lex actually does have a handle on true salvation. Let's read what Lex has to say in his book, Immortal. This is on pages 13 and 14. He says, in 1 Corinthians, Paul gives a very detailed description of the gospel, and it sounds quite different from many of the popular sermon formulas of today. Quote, this is from 1 Corinthians. Moreover, brethren, I declare to you that the gospel which I preached to you, which also you received and in which you stand, by which also you are saved, if you hold fast that word which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. Pardon me. For I delivered to you first of all that which I also received, that Christ died for our sins, according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day, according to the Scriptures, and that he was seen by Cephas, and so on and so forth.
Right,
okay.
right.
End quote from the Bible. Continued quote from Myers. If you asked most believers what the gospel is, they would no doubt tell you that Jesus died for our sins. But this is often where many end their message, neglecting to mention his burial and resurrection, or the witnesses who verify it. And then over on page 15, he says, there can be no doubt that Paul believed the resurrection was of the utmost importance. He claims that without the resurrection, our faith is futile and we are still in our sins. Therefore, salvation is impossible without the resurrection of Yeshua, and anyone who preaches a gospel deprived of this fact is teaching a worthless gospel. Some people mistakenly argue that the death of Yeshua is the most important part of the gospel. However, if Yeshua did not rise from the dead, then we have no gospel. It is not good news that our Messiah died. The good news is that Yeshua conquered death. If he did not rise from the dead, then he was nothing more than a martyr. The resurrection changes everything. So I agree with Lex on this, and actually it sounds like he's got a very good handle on.
Well, even more than that, unless he ascended and applied his blood,
and continually
intercedes. So, the point of the resurrection, it gets a lot of what do you call it? Highlight or discussion, is because the significance of victory over death. In other words, there was no sin in Yeshua. Death could not hold him. So the claim of the resurrection is in and of itself a victory over sin and death.
Yes.
Now, but if Yeshua would not if he would not have fulfilled his high priestly office and continue to intercede, he would basically live forever by himself.
Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure to share and like this video, and don't forget to hover over this round thing and click the subscribe button. That way you'll never miss another video from the Rob and Caleb Show.